Let's continue to talk about education in this country, and for right now we'll focus on the standards countrywide. Professor Mary Metcalfe is a veteran of education in the country and is also from the UJ School of Public Management to talk to us about this. Mary, good evening to you and welcome. Always a pleasure to have you on. And we were saying in the break, it seems as if we have similar themed conversations each year because some of the big architectural issues around education provision in South Africa remain year in and year out. And our big question is the quality of our education up to standard? When you begin to unpack that question, how do you attack it?
Let me first of all say that I think that we need to have these conversations again and again and again, because the parents who are involved in understanding this as citizens are drawn in when their children approach the writing of the National Senior Certificate. So if our role, yours as the media and mine as the person who contributes, is to help people understand, we will have these conversations again and again, and I think it's important. When you ask, is the quality of education improving? I've been doing some work on this recently, and if you take a long-term view and you look at our performance in international assessments, there's been a steady increase. We have to take into account the impacts of COVID, but we need to keep on the improvement. We need to accelerate the improvement. And in my view, the focus on the National Senior Certificate, I understand, but what we really must be doing is focusing on improving education right from before school, from the new compulsory grade R and in the primary school. A last-minute rush to improve the National Senior Certificate results is not the solution. It's a steady, committed improvement that we all need to work towards, both government and families, communities.
So issues relating to performance, as you're sharing there, are systemic. And given everything that we've learned, we know that we have to start earlier and earlier, around ECD level upwards, to make sure that that's where the matriculant is birthed. That's where the next cohort of professionals in the country are birthed. There are a lot of complaints from parents. If we look at, the performance of kids at school, and we'll get to some of that just now, or we look at the throughput level of kids, or from those who start school to the time that they finish, and how many of those are able to go on and build a career, get an education, and build a career. On using that trajectory, Mary, how would you define, the quality and preparedness for that child to be, a functional member of society and economically active?
Well, as you say, every year there's some consistent debates. And one of the debates is we celebrate those learners who wrote the NSC and passed, but did everyone write? And where are the learners who didn't write? Now, this is an important issue in education. And I know that the RECEP unit at Stellenbosch has recently released new research. And what they've drawn the public's attention to, which I think needs detailed debate in the public sphere, is the reality that from grade 10 and up, we lose many learners. The failure rate at grade 10 is high, and there's reasons for that. And the dropout rate begins to really accelerate from grade 10, which is after the period of compulsory education. Now, what we have then is a large group of young people who are not in education, who are not in training, who are not in employment. And where are they? What is their sense of a future? Now, that, I think, what has really stimulated the debate is this publication by RECEP. And the debate that we need is, should we be looking at repetition and failure and what that means for young people in terms of perhaps pushing them out of school? And that is a very important debate. So there are young people who are NEET, not in education, employment and training. How do we reach them? What can we do in the education system to ensure that more learners pass consistently? And what do we do with young people to support them through the last 3 years of schooling rather than at the moment seeing the high level of dropout?
When you look at things, Professor Metcalfe, like Umalusi, being really concerned about, group copying, and some of these incidents they cite involve almost 1,000 matrics, mainly from two provinces, KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga. What goes through your mind?
Well, I think we have to condemn the cheating, and that's still under investigation. But I think that at this time we must also say it's 1,000 out of 900,000. So I don't think there's many people watching this program who weren't ever tempted to cheat. What's worrying about this particular example is when they say group copying, it implies that it was done by a group within the same venue, and that suggests that the invigilators were not doing their work, and some people might argue were even involved. That must be investigated. But for 899,000 other learners, there isn't evidence of, and that is the positive story. The copying and the cheating must be dealt with, and the other problems that Umalusi picked up, for example, there's some technical errors in terms of packaging, in terms of printing, which can disadvantage students. And that's why we have Umalusi, because they have to quality assure the National Senior Certificate that's written by the DBE candidates, where we have the 900,000, the equivalent National Senior Certificate written by the IEB, where there's only 15,000 candidates, as well as the exam candidates from DHET and other bodies. So Umalusi's job is to say, we can quality assure, we can tell the South African public that these results are credible. We've checked them against historic trends, we've standardized, we've looked at all of the procedures. You can be confident that the results that are going to be announced on Thursday are reliable. And the other thing, Imam, that Umalusi reported on is that they've had benchmarking studies in terms of the standard of the Umalusi internationally, from the continent and more broadly. And the constant research finding of those processes is our NSC is up to standard.
All right, some heartening signals there shared with us by Professor Mary Metcalfe. Thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate it, from the UJ School of Public Management. And a question or an issue that she raises there in that interview around those learners who have left school, not in education, neither are they in training or employment. That's certainly a group that we can focus on in future interviews.